Welcome to our channel, where we bring untold stories about social issues that deeply affect communities. This is a space to re-examine the overlooked corners of society, to share the real stories about people, about lives that sometimes go unnoticed. Today, we will explore one of the biggest crises happening right in the heart of America, the growing homelessness issue in Michigan. Michigan is not only known for its developed cities, which are the center of the American automotive industry and boast notable wealth. But behind the bright lights of these cities is a darkness that few know about, a worsening homelessness crisis. Together, we will explore the contrast between prosperous areas like Ann Arbor, Bloomfield Hills, and impoverished cities like Detroit, Flint, and Grand Rapids. In these places, homeless people face not only material deprivation but also a lack of care and justice. The homelessness crisis in Michigan is not just a matter of numbers. It is the story of people left behind by an unjust system, where the rich live in luxurious homes, while the poor face cold, harsh days with no shelter. Who truly benefits from this instability? Who is paying the price for the uneven development that society has created? These questions will be answered as we delve deeper into Michigan's homelessness situation and how economic disparity is increasingly widening the gap between communities. We invite you to follow along to discover these touching and challenging stories, to gain a better understanding of those who have been pushed to the margins of society. Michigan, a vast state with more than 10 million people, where cities shine with the neon lights of the automotive industry, where luxurious homes stretch along the shores of Lake Michigan. But there is a dark side hidden within these developed urban areas, which few of us see. A distinct boundary is gradually forming between two worlds, one side being prosperous neighborhoods with sparkling lights, upscale buildings like in Arbor, Bloomfield Hills, places where wealth is never lacking, and on the other side, Detroit, Flint, Grand Rapids, where people are struggling with poverty, with the deprivation of a society that has abandoned them. In these areas, life is not only scarce, but also life-threatening. On a cold winter night, when temperatures can drop below -10 degrees Fahrenheit, the homeless have no shelter and must seek refuge in makeshift camps in abandoned buildings with no protection other than old tarps. They have no home, no warm blankets, only bone-chilling winds and cardboard sheets to cover them. But nothing can prevent the freezing cold from penetrating every inch of their bodies. These people not only face hunger and poverty, but also the cold indifference from those around them. They are the invisible ghosts of this society. The homelessness situation is increasingly worsening in Michigan, and the numbers are hard to ignore. 14,000 homeless people in 2024, a 30% increase from the previous year. This figure is not just a dry statistic. Behind it are people sinking in hardship, where the lack of support services, emergency shelters, and affordable housing programs presents an immense challenge. Residents of cities like Detroit, Flint, and Grand Rapids live in this deprivation, not just materially but also in their lack of opportunities to lead a full life. With the growing wealth gap, affluent areas like Ann Arbor and Bloomfield Hills have it all: full healthcare services, luxurious housing, and exceptional job opportunities. Meanwhile, the poor in places like Detroit face the sight of empty streets, abandoned buildings turned into makeshift shelters, where life is slowly being snuffed out in the dark, unseen by anyone. These are the poorest areas, where scarcity becomes the norm. Places where every effort seems futile when confronted with the helpless wall of a system that cannot meet their needs. The homeless here are not just numbers and statistics, but human beings' lives left behind, with no help, no hope. In that harsh winter, when the cold winds blow through the empty streets, cities like Detroit, Flint, and Grand Rapids are the hardest hit. Makeshift camps are where every hope gradually fades away, where these people must live under extreme conditions, facing dangers they cannot control. These are the areas where life becomes a battle for survival, not only against the cold, but also against the neglect of a society that has turned its back on them. But as we leave the bustling cities, where homelessness has been recognized and to some extent acknowledged, another picture emerges, one that is less spoken about, less noticed, but no less concerning. In rural areas like Alpena, Sault Ste. Marie, and Cadillac, the homelessness crisis becomes even more severe, as there are no shelters, no reliable support services. Here, the homeless cannot find clean temporary shelters or government assistance programs. They must live in old, cramped cars with no place to cook, no place to clean. Abandoned buildings, scattered among isolated areas, become makeshift shelters for the homeless, but they have no real roofs, no safety. In the freezing cold of these barren lands, loneliness is their only companion. Sadly, support services in these rural areas are nearly non-existent. Shelter centers are almost absent, while infrastructure is outdated and insufficient to connect those in need with relief organizations. While the homeless in large cities can at least find temporary shelter or emergency medical services, here in rural areas, they struggle in isolation, with no one to turn to, no one to call for help. Along with this, there is a severe shortage of public transportation systems. This system not only limits the ability to transport the homeless to relief centers, but it also creates a significant barrier to accessing essential services, from healthcare to food. The old, sparse buses or the long roads with no stops make life here even more brutal. In this oblivion, they endure a life with no escape, where each day is a fight for survival not only in terms of material needs but also in terms of existence in a society that does not acknowledge their presence. In Michigan's homelessness crisis, one element that cannot be overlooked is racial discrimination, a deep-rooted and persistent issue that has created huge divides in this society. When we look at the statistics, we cannot help but feel a sense of injustice. African Americans, who make up about 14% of the state's population, account for nearly 60% of the homeless. This is not just a dry figure, but the story of injustice, a community facing poverty and deprivation while having no opportunity to rise above. It's not just the African American community of Latinos, though only about 6% of the population, also face alarming rates of homelessness. This figure reflects a harsh reality. Minority ethnic groups not only fall behind in life, but also endure additional injustices in accessing housing and social services. Both of these groups face enormous obstacles when searching for stable housing, a job, or even basic services such as healthcare, education, or social support. The upscale homes in prosperous neighborhoods, where there is hardly any trace of homelessness, never welcome them. The public housing system and social assistance programs have always created invisible, and sometimes even tangible, barriers, making it difficult for minority groups to access them. Racial discrimination is not only present in every action, but is also clearly reflected in housing policies, employment, and support services that these groups struggle to access. The price they pay is a more difficult life, not only in finding shelter, but also in existing within a system that seems to never offer them a fair chance. This racial discrimination not only deprives them of the opportunity for stable living, but also forces them to live in fear and loneliness in impoverished neighborhoods, amid crumbling buildings and empty streets. This is a painful reality, an injustice that exists not only in numbers but also in every life, every dream extinguished because of inequality in society. The system of discrimination has deeply embedded itself in Michigan's social structure, particularly in the housing and employment systems, two key factors that determine the stability of every life. African Americans and Latinos face explicit discrimination in both of these areas. When they search for a home, they not only encounter financial shortages but also face invisible barriers, subtle rejections from landlords, for rent signs hidden away, or even unfair assessments from banks when applying for home loans. Even if they have the financial means, discrimination in the approval process for housing applications remains like a closed door before them. The same situation occurs in the employment world. African Americans and Latinos, despite having adequate education, skills, and experience, still face discrimination in the hiring process. Studies have shown that they are often paid lower wages than other ethnic groups, and opportunities for promotion are nearly out of reach. This discrimination not only stifles personal ambition, but also makes it difficult for them to escape the cycle of poverty. When a group of people is excluded from the workforce, with no opportunity to develop a career, these families are forced to live in deprivation, where one unexpected event, an illness, an accident, or a financial loss can turn them into the homeless. This discrimination is not simply an injustice against individuals, but it has far-reaching impacts on the community. When an ethnic group is deprived of opportunity, cycles of poverty persist and spread across generations. Children growing up in these impoverished families not only lack educational opportunities, but also lack a role model to learn from, a model they can aspire to. The lack of opportunities is not just a financial issue. It is also an ongoing mental struggle. This injustice pushes many into homelessness, like a trap they cannot escape. simply because of the color of their skin, the language they speak, or where they were born. Although the homelessness picture in Michigan remains dark and challenging, in recent years, support initiatives and reform policies have begun to create rays of hope, providing better living opportunities for the homeless, especially in major cities like Detroit. These programs not only help reduce the number of homeless people, but also bring about widespread change in how this community is supported. One of the most notable and successful programs in fighting homelessness is the Housing First program. The Housing First program, implemented in Detroit, has been highly successful in addressing chronic homelessness. What makes this program unique is that, instead of requiring the homeless to overcome challenges such as addiction treatment or mental health issues before being provided with housing, it focuses on offering a stable home to those who need it the most. Only once they have stable housing can they address other issues, from health to employment. This has created a significant turning point, helping reduce chronic homelessness by 25% in just 3 years, an encouraging result and a clear demonstration of the effectiveness of helping the homeless find a home before tackling more complex issues. Rent assistance programs and affordable housing initiatives have become crucial solutions in helping low-income families avoid the risk of eviction. These initiatives provide homes that are not only fully equipped but also affordable, allowing families to stabilize their lives without the constant worry of being pushed onto the streets due to an inability to pay rent. This support is especially important for poor families who have struggled with poverty and deprivation for many years. The reality is, a stable home not only helps them overcome immediate difficulties, but also creates an opportunity for them to rebuild their lives, from finding new jobs to creating a brighter future for their children. However, it's not only government initiatives that play a vital role, but nonprofit organizations like the Detroit Charity and the Michigan Housing Organization are also making significant contributions in changing the lives of the homeless. These organizations not only help homeless individuals find stable housing, but also provide comprehensive support services, including psychological counseling, healthcare, and job search assistance. These services help the homeless not just find a place to live, but also reintegrate into society, restore their mental and physical health, and create career development opportunities. These services are key factors in helping them not only survive but also thrive, rebuilding their lives from difficult beginnings. In addition, these initiatives also help reduce stigma and racial discrimination in the housing and employment systems. Creating equitable access for minority groups, such as African Americans and Latinos, is a crucial aspect of addressing homelessness. When the homeless have access to quality support programs, they not only gain a roof over their heads, but also an opportunity to rebuild their lives, free from racial discrimination and societal barriers. This not only helps them stabilize their lives, but also contributes to reducing social divides, bringing people closer together in a fair and inclusive society. One of the greatest achievements of these support programs is the change in the community's perception of homelessness. The homeless are no longer seen as individuals who have failed or been abandoned. Instead, they are viewed as people who need support to reintegrate into society. This shift in perception not only gives the homeless hope, but also strengthens unity within the community, fostering a spirit of mutual assistance and social responsibility. While homelessness remains a significant issue in Michigan, these initiatives have shown that with the right support and policies, everyone can have the opportunity to change their lives. Programs like Housing First not only provide a home for the homeless, but also help them regain hope, health, and opportunities for growth in a fair society. When the community and government work together closely, we can bring about meaningful changes, helping the homeless not only survive but also live fulfilling and dignified lives. This journey is still long, but the first steps have opened up a promising path. Homelessness is not an unsolvable problem. It is a challenge that requires collective effort from all levels of society, from the government to community organizations and every individual in society. Let us continue to act together because change will not happen without all of us. To address homelessness comprehensively and sustainably, immediate support initiatives are needed, but long-term and extensive solutions are also crucial. One of the most important solutions is reforming housing and zoning policies to ensure that low-income individuals have access to affordable and safe housing. Currently, policies on affordable housing still have many limitations and do not adequately meet the needs of the homeless. We need reforms to increase the number of affordable housing units, not only in urban areas, but also expanding to rural areas, where the housing shortage is also becoming more severe. An important step in improving the homelessness situation is the revision of zoning regulations. Current regulations often encourage the construction of affordable housing for low-income individuals only in suburban or poor areas, leading to a clear division between social classes. This creates class segregation, where low-income people are forced to live in areas lacking infrastructure, employment opportunities, and social services. We need to promote the construction of affordable housing in both urban and rural areas, creating inclusive communities, reducing class divisions, and providing everyone with equal opportunities for development. In addition to housing policy reforms, an essential element in combating homelessness is focusing on mental health and addiction treatment. Mental health issues and addiction are common factors contributing to homelessness. Many homeless individuals not only lack housing, but also face severe mental health problems, suffering from nightmares caused by depression, anxiety, or post-traumatic stress disorder (PTSD). They need access to professional mental health care services in order to recover and rebuild their lives. However, not all homeless individuals suffer from mental health issues. A significant portion of them are struggling with addiction, another common factor leading to homelessness. When addiction becomes a central issue in their lives, maintaining a job, sustaining relationships, and managing finances become nearly impossible. Therefore, it is necessary to expand addiction recovery services, providing rehabilitation centers that are properly equipped with the necessary resources and personnel to help homeless individuals in their recovery process. These services should not only focus on treating mental health and addiction issues, but should also be integrated with other social support services, such as employment, legal counseling, and financial assistance programs. When the homeless have access to these comprehensive services, they can have the opportunity to improve their health, regain stable employment, and gradually rebuild their lives from the ground up. The importance of community collaboration in addressing homelessness cannot be overstated. Governments, nonprofit organizations, and local communities need to work closely together to create a comprehensive and effective support system. Nonprofit organizations play a crucial role in providing support services, but in order to bring about lasting change, community participation and government support are necessary. Housing policies, healthcare, education, and employment support must be integrated to create a robust safety net for the vulnerable in society. Community collaboration also includes educating and raising awareness among the public about homelessness, helping them understand that this is not an issue far removed from their own lives, but one where we all can contribute to the solution. When everyone in society takes responsibility and participates in helping the homeless, we can build a fairer society where no one is left behind. To address homelessness sustainably, we cannot stop at improving support services or strengthening housing policies. An important factor that cannot be overlooked is addressing the root causes of this issue, including the rising cost of living, job instability, and environmental factors affecting people's ability to access housing. In recent years, the cost of living in Michigan, particularly rental prices, has skyrocketed. The average rent in the state has now reached $1,850 per month, a figure far too high for many low-income families. This forces residents, especially low-wage workers, to struggle with maintaining stable housing. They are forced to choose between paying for housing and covering basic needs like food, healthcare, and education. As a result, many families live in overcrowded conditions, lacking adequate amenities, or even without stable housing. This situation only increases the number of homeless individuals, especially when they are unable to sustain a steady income to cover the ever-increasing costs. In addition to the rising cost of living, the decline in the manufacturing industry has also played a significant role in creating homelessness. Traditional industries, particularly automotive manufacturing and heavy industries, which were once Michigan's strengths, have experienced a sharp decline in recent years. Many factories have closed, large companies have reduced their scale or moved production to other countries, leading to a wave of unemployment. Thousands of workers lost their jobs and could no longer maintain a stable livelihood, gradually being pushed out of society. Moreover, the increasing automation in production has led to a reduced demand for labor, creating a large gap between workers and new employment opportunities. Workers who are unable to equip themselves with new skills for different fields find it difficult to reintegrate into the job market, and this is one of the primary causes of homelessness. Environmental factors are also increasing pressure on homelessness. Michigan not only faces instability in its economy, but also has to deal with increasingly severe natural disasters. The harsh winters, with bone-chilling cold and heavy snow, make life unbearable for the homeless. Large storms and flooding are also serious issues, especially in suburban and rural areas where infrastructure is poorly developed and access to relief services is very difficult. These areas often lack enough shelter centers and necessary medical services to support residents, leaving them struggling with isolation and deprivation as natural disasters intensify. The storms, floods, and severe weather conditions not only cause direct damage to property, but also heavily impact the ability to access essential services. Areas severely affected often face power outages, water shortages, and disrupted transportation. These conditions make it extremely difficult for residents, especially the homeless, to move around. They cannot access relief centers, temporary shelters, or essential medical services. Many even cannot find shelter from snowstorms or floods, forcing them to live in dangerous conditions, unable to ensure their health and safety. To effectively address homelessness in Michigan, we need to take a comprehensive approach, not just focusing on providing housing, but also addressing the environmental and economic factors contributing to this issue. The government needs to implement long-term policies to alleviate the rising cost of living, create new job opportunities, and support workers affected by the decline in the manufacturing sector. At the same time, it is crucial to improve infrastructure and strengthen relief services in rural and suburban areas, especially in times of natural disasters. Only when we address these root causes can homelessness be reduced and solved in a sustainable way. Homelessness in Michigan is a serious humanitarian issue that can no longer be ignored. Behind the dry statistics are real people lives forced into a state of uncertainty, with no home, no future. While support initiatives have been implemented, this issue remains too large and complex. To truly change this situation, closer coordination between the government, community organizations, and the people is required. Support must come not only from the authorities, but also from active community participation to create a strong safety net for the vulnerable in society. We cannot sit idly by and wait for change from invisible forces. Each individual of us can contribute to this fight. Every small action, from volunteering and donating to sharing useful initiatives and solutions, can make a difference. That is why we call on you to participate in activities that support the homeless in Michigan and share your ideas for effective solutions to mitigate this issue. Leave a comment below this video and share your thoughts on the necessary solutions to address homelessness. Together, we can create change, not only helping those in need, but also building a united and compassionate community. Join the fight, because only when we act together can homelessness be eradicated, and the homeless truly have a chance to start over.